Where were you when? It is the one question every generation has asked in the wave of a singular historical moment that changed the world as we know it. We are celebrating the men and women who protect our country and our communities. Whether stateside or overseas, our military and first responders are the best of humankind. Brave, heroic, selfless, and maybe most of all, compassionate. They dedicate their lives to helping and saving others. On the eastern outskirts of Winslow, near the I-40, you will find a simple yet stark reminder of the 9/11 tragedy in New York City.
They're from the World Trade Center, and the reason we got them is because I guess we asked.
Former Councilwoman Dee Rodriguez was, like many of us in Arizona and the United States, moved and saddened by what happened on that awful day. So she spearheaded an effort to build a memorial.
We had to do something.
At first, the city of New York balked at giving away pieces of the wreckage of the tower. But Dee and the town of Winslow were persistent. Finally, the powers that be agreed to let them have the tower pieces, but they would have to come and get them. So with less than 4 days before the town came out to recognize the memorial, Dee got help from the Walmart distribution company in Buckeye. They drove day and night to get the tower pieces back to Winslow. With only hours left until the first anniversary ceremony, the 2 steel girders from the World Trade Center went up. So too did a flag and a plaque that reads, "These 2 steel beams from the World Trade Center, entrusted to the citizens of Winslow by the city of New York, along with this flag that was flown at the Pentagon, stand as the centerpiece of our remembrance garden." The words "United we stand" remind the world that we will not fear terrorism. We hereby dedicate this garden to Northern Arizona's promise that we will never forget.
Okay, so Ron, you are the former mayor of Gila Bend.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, this is a real testament to Gila Bend that you would have a 9/11 memorial right here. And I remember last year going to the 9/11 memorial in New York, which was so powerful, so moving. And I remember steel girders like this, and that's exactly what this is.
Right.
Now, how did you get that?
Well, it's a process, and Fred Hall, who was the main person involved in this, Fred Hall and Chuck Turner answered a letter that was requesting if anybody wanted a piece of the memorial. And so we answered, and we said, well, what do we have to do to do it? So we filled out the form and sent it in, and it was within a short period of time that we ended up getting a reply back that come and get it.
Really?
And so we did.
I mean, it's such a great celebration of these people's lives, and to say that, we will never forget, we will remember. And even in a town so far away from New York City, we've got something that memorializes,
right,
the value of these people's, lives and the lives that were lost.
Now that's what we wanted, is we wanted to symbolize that we're part of this, what they went through.
Right.
And so.
Right. We're all one. We're all one big family.
Exactly.
Right? And we have to support each other.
For nearly 75 years, Luke Air Force Base has played a prominent role in training fighter pilots and ground support. It's even credited as the birth of the West Valley. Luke Air Force Base is named after 2nd Lieutenant Frank Luke Jr. Born in Phoenix in 1897, Luke was nicknamed the Arizona Balloon Buster for his 18 aerial victories over France during World War I. He was shot down over Baton, France in 1918 after destroying 3 German observation balloons. But he didn't go down without a fight. It's said he survived the crash and then shot several German soldiers before being killed. Luke was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, the first aviator given that distinction. The air base, named in his honor, became the largest fighter training base in the Army forces during World War II and earned the nickname Home of the Fighter Pilot, as more than 1 million hours of flying time were logged. Today, it is home to the 56th Fighter Wing, the U.S. Air Force's largest fighter wing and the only active duty F-16 training base in the world. Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. From the air, the 2,600-acre Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Center really does resemble something odd, even eerie, like an elephant boneyard. But up close, these flying machines of war are more ominous looking. From the tail end of this aircraft to the front end, it is an impressive and awesome sight, like a stable of steel ponies at the ready.
AMARC in 1964 was designated by the Department of Defense to be the sole repository for the storage and disposal of aircraft, all military aircraft. So we've got all the service aircraft here.
As the jets of the new age fly overhead, the old and not so old ones wait to be called on again, in one way or another.
We have 4,200 aircraft here at AMARC. A variety from the F-16s, which are behind me, the fighters, to tankers, to airlifters, a variety of them. We have 70 different types of aircraft here at AMARC.
Commander Tony Panic says there is a careful process that goes on the minute the aircraft arrives at the scrapyard.
Well, the first thing we do is we flush and drain all the fluids. We run a lightweight oil through all the systems, through the engines to preserve them. And we give it a good washing to get all the corrosive off it. We then tape the aircraft, which is an electrical type of tape around the seams for the windows and the cockpits. And then we put this vinyl coating on it. We call it spray lat. It's black, it's a vinyl. It preserves the aircraft.
Aligned as neatly as the planets, the white planes you see here have been signed, sealed, and not quite delivered. The gray ones, however, still need to be preserved.
We pull about 20,000 parts a year. The savings is about $500 million a year. But there's two great reasons to do it out here in Arizona. First is the climate. It doesn't rain out here and has a low humidity, so that creates a non-corrosive environment. So really, the metal doesn't rust out here like it does in other places. And the second reason is the desert soil itself. This caliche soil. After about an inch or so below the sand, there's a concrete-like surface that allows us to tow these aircraft out here without the use of concrete or ramps or asphalt or things of that nature, which is very costly.
After the strategic arms limitation between the U.S. and Russia, hundreds of bombers were laid out and chopped into pieces. They were then left out in the open so the Russians could use their spy satellites for proof of U.S. compliance with the SALT II.
We'll take an F-4 that's been sitting in the desert maybe 15 years. In about 100 days, we'll do all the inspections and repairs on it and make it fly so that it'll become a drone, and then it's used in testing weapon systems, then eventually shot down and used in the drone program.
So what did we learn here at AMARC today? We learned that military planes never die. They just retire and wait until their country needs them again.
We've got dedicated professional workers here that take a lot of pride in preserving these aircraft. And the bottom line is the people make it happen. And they ensure that we get the most military value from all these aircraft that we store here.
Today, we are here at Fort Huachuca in Sierra Vista, Arizona's largest military base. And I am going to experience something that no other civilian has ever done here at Fort Huachuca.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's get it with the Kevlar. Remember, you're gonna have stuff flying around in there.
All right, am I walking in this way?
I want you to look closely at this incredible footage of a Humvee just seconds before an attack. Amid all the chaos, American-trained Iraqi soldiers get out of the Humvee without serious injury.
Now, as the vehicle rolls, you're gonna end up at the 180 degrees. Show us how we're gonna be at 180 degrees, please. So you're gonna roll with the vehicle.
Today, my instructor Shane is telling me what I need to do to survive a crash like the one you just saw. This is all about to take place inside this, the Humvee Egress Assistance Trainer, or HEAT as it's more commonly known.
Gunner, this is you.
Oh, this is me.
This is you.
Not only am I the first civilian to go through this training, they are putting me in the most vulnerable position. I'm the gunner.
Did I tell you that I can't breathe right now?
The harness I have to wear is really uncomfortable. In fact, one of the soldiers even gives me the shirt off his back because he doesn't want me to scrape or bruise myself.
So my exit is here, clockwise. And
Or
then
counterclockwise.
or
Just push down on that button all the
one or
way.
other.
The information is coming at me faster than I can process it.
All I know is I'll go help, rescue, rollover.
I was trying to be cool, detached. I was even joking around.
You guys are stuck with me for 30 minutes?
But no one was laughing. The troops were serious.
Let's get our seats set up.
Am I walking in this way?
I'm gonna roll with this vehicle? Okay, now I'm nervous. I'm the one up there in the gunner seat, and that makes me the most likely to get hurt. Because when this thing rolls, there is only one strap holding me down. No lap and shoulder harness like the others. So I'm counting on the other soldiers to grab both my arms and my legs when this thing starts to roll.
All right, let's get the door shut. Combat locks engaged.
The doors lock behind me, and I'm in this cramped little space inside this massive steel box. I look around, and the others are calm. But all of a sudden, I have this attack of claustrophobia.
Ready, stop, disengage.
Disengage.
Clear left, clear right.
Clear left, clear right.
All right, once you hear rollover, Robin, you're gonna get in there and don't hold on to.
Okay.
Now, I'm upside down.
Ready, stop, engage.
Everything's dark, and I have completely lost my bearings. Totally reliant on the soldiers to hold me in place.
Egress, egress.
Door open!
I'm trying to remember what I'm supposed to do, but it's just not coming.
Where the hell is my buckle?
Go.
Thank you.
It's like being in a slow-motion car wreck. There's no airbag, there's no extra padding, and I've got a few painful bruises to prove it. All I know is I have to get out of the Humvee as soon as possible.
Come up to the front of the trainer, guys.
You guys have so much to think about at the same time because you're thinking about each other. You're thinking about getting out of the car. You're thinking about maybe there's enemies out there about to attack you. It's amazing that you could be processing so much information at one time.
As intense as this was for me, it's over. I'll never have to face this in real life. Travis did.
We were stationed out in Iraq and we came around, turned too sharply, and he actually went up on the pipeline and rolled the vehicle.
Okay. How would you say that this training helped you when you were actually out in the field?
It's from repetition and doing the training over and over again, it's almost as if you were to get in your vehicle and you know you have to start the car. It kicks in when it needs to be kicked in. It lets you react in a quicker response time.
You know what? I need to shake your hand. I need to give you a hug because you look great. You know what? If I ever got in a situation like that, I would love to have you and all your team members with me.
Well, we
It
appreciate
made
it
me feel
greatly.
very safe
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
secure.
Nuclear missiles are scary, and most of the time they're kept hidden. However, that is not the case here in Arizona. We want you to know exactly where our nuclear missile is. In fact, we're inviting you to come visit it and to learn more about the role it could have played in the end of the world.
10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. Engines on. 5, 4.
And here's how hell would be unleashed. The massive concrete cover of the silo slides open.
Liftoff.
Liquid fuels pumped into the missile's engines ignite, pushing it out of its 150-foot deep silo.
25 to 30 minutes. From that point, your primary target is essentially going to cease to exist.
The missile roars into the sky, then into space, streaking out of Arizona over the Arctic Circle, heading for a target somewhere inside the Soviet Union. Then finally, the booster breaks away, and the missile's 9-megaton warhead hurtles down to deliver a blast that will wipe out an entire city.
Titan II was good for wide area soft targets where you have multiple political, military, socially important targets grouped together in a single area.
Yvonne Morris is now the director of the Titan II Missile Museum. It's in Sahuarita, about 25 miles south of Tucson, just off Interstate 19.
As a missile combat crew commander, I was responsible for supervising a crew comprised of 4 people.
Back then, during the Cold War, Morris was here, deep underground in charge of a crew tasked with launching this Titan II missile. So, if nobody was in the missile flying it, why did it need a crew? Partly, perhaps, one last human failsafe to prevent an accidental launch.
Wherever you have access to nuclear weapons, they don't want one person alone with that kind of access. So everything of launch critical importance on the site had to be accomplished by at least 2 people.
Nobody had their finger on the button to launch the missile. That actually came down to turning these keys.
The combat crew commander and the deputy combat crew commander would copy and review the launch order. It took both officers to open the safe to access the launch keys and the verification codes. They had to each turn their keys within 2 seconds of each other and hold them in the on position for 5 seconds to actually initiate the launch sequence.
Another reason for more than one person to do the job, to prevent mishaps like this in the flight of the missile. Being a crew member meant giving the Air Force a pretty deep look inside your head.
Everyone that is selected for crew duty has to go through very significant psychological screening. We were all monitored under something called the Personnel Reliability Program, or PRP, and it worked. It was the epitome of Big Brother.
There's now no fuel in the missile. That square cut in the tip is so the whole world can see there is no longer a bomb inside. That is also why the missile silo is left partly opened on clear view for any country's spy satellites. For Yvonne and other former crew members, one question lingers. If the order had come, would they have launched the missile?
I don't have any doubt that I would have turned the key, and my confidence in that comes mostly from the fact that the Titan II is a retaliatory system.
The government shut down the Titan II missile program back in the early 1980s. There were 18 missile silos in Arizona. This one is a museum. Some of the 17 others are now in private hands, and not completely without their dangers. Watch what happens as this guy works to turn his missile silo into a home. Pretty good scare, but nobody got hurt.
We're here in Mesa at the Arizona wing of the Commemorative Air Force, and we're getting ready to take a ride in this fabulous flying fortress. So come along with us on this sentimental journey. It's basically a blast into the past.
Gonna take a sentimental journey. Gonna set my heart at ease. Gonna make a sentimental
4-star check, logbook, board, pre-flight inspection complete.
This shiny silver behemoth, in all its military splendor, has been known to reduce grown men to tears.
A lot of times we'll get a grandfather coming up. He was in the war with his whole family, and we'll ask him the normal questions. We'll say, well, you know, what bomb group, what position in the plane, how many missions, and before you know it, he's telling us war stories. Well, their jaws drop because Grandpa hasn't said squat in 65 years, and this is the first they've heard of it, so they got video cameras going, and they have tears in their eyes. It's really good stuff.
Perhaps it's the memory of a world war fought on the young backs of American boys from all walks of life. Whatever it is, a flight or tour aboard this plane should be required for all those generations after the greatest generation. Nearly a week does not go by without the volunteers and flight crew of this flying fortress hearing stories of heroism and courage under fire.
This is a piece of flak from World War II. that came through the ball turret window when my father was flying back in 1944 over Germany, that blew up, came through the window, missed his neck by a couple inches, and stuck in the turret. He kept it all these years, along with several other pieces. And when I started becoming a pilot of this airplane and flying it 8 years ago, he gave it to me as a lucky charm. So I always have this in my pocket when we're flying.
To get a chance to go inside this special aircraft is to know just how much courage it took to go up in it at the height of World War II.
Your father, is that true?
That's correct.
Flew in a B-17?
My father flew 2,700 hours in a B-17, 50 combat missions.
So there has to be a lot of, should I say, nostalgia for you in some ways?
Yes, and I never envisioned that anything in my life would eventually have me flying the same airplane as my father flew in combat.
Well, I want to go inside.
Well, that's my favorite place.
Okay, let's go on up. Now, this is the nose of the plane?
Yes. This is the very front.
So actually an officer would sit right where you are?
This is the bombardier's chair. When the navigator wasn't finding his fix and when the bombardier wasn't guiding the airplane to drop the bombs, they were in charge of operating the 4 guns that are up here. This is where the 13th machine gun is.
The 13th machine gun?
Yep. You can count all the rest from outside. This is the only place you're going to see the 13th.
Right there, huh?
If you'll see here, tracks along each side where the gun rolls down in position. And right here, as you see on either side, is a box of 50 caliber ammunition. And I'm sure you've heard the expression, I gave it the whole 9 yards. If you pull that linked ammo out of that box and lay it down the ground, it's 9 yards long.
So this is it, huh?
This, the only position we haven't covered is the tail gunner position. He's back behind the tail wheel there.
The Commemorative Air Force offers rides and tours aboard the Sentimental Journey. It's a step back into history everyone should experience.
Baby, I'm coming home.
9/11 left us numb, in shock and in disbelief. It is a day that continues to resonate nearly 2 decades later. But during this major shift in how we live our lives and perceive the world, unrelenting heroism and self-sacrifice has never wavered. To our first responders, we salute you every day.
Thanks, everyone, so much for joining us. I'm Robin Sewell, and we'll see you on the next Arizona Highways.